like they had a halo around the ring. Like it was just holier than thou.
Depending on who you talk to, people might say that it was because the Donald was at ringside.
With the election this week, we always try to tie wrestling to whatever is happening in real time, and we felt that it would be fun to look back at Donald Trump's run in WWE at WrestleMania 23 for the Battle of the Billionaires. This was a time when I hit my teenage wrestling wall, and I never saw this match until watching it for this show. And Mongoose, I couldn't be any more excited to talk about this with you.
Yeah, I was in college at this time, so I was on hiatus as well. And the first and until today only time that I ever saw this was when I watched all 35 WrestleManias with my daughter during quarantine. And so we consumed about 125 hours of pro wrestling in a few weeks' time. So I might as well have been watching this for the first time as well. So let's get it, man. So before we get to the match, we do have to talk about the segment about an hour into the show. Trump's on a flip phone. This place is ridiculous. There's 100,000 people. The place is packed. Yeah. And now Trump starts complaining that there's nothing to eat. While he's on the phone, he's sitting next to Miss America. And then out of nowhere, who comes out, John?
Ooh, it's the boogeyman. And he's coming to get you.
Dude, he spits God only knows what out of his mouth. And Trump is sitting there, dude, and he just totally no sells it. What a segment.
The other side of the coin later in the show with Vince, but this was legitimately nightmare fuel. It's like they do it from his grandchild's point of view from inside the car carrier, and it's shooting out at Vince, and he's just like, I'm gonna beat him. I'm gonna take his money. I'm gonna shave his head bald. And it's like so it's weird, man. It's straight up weird.
Hey, man, this is the Battle of the Billionaires. So rather than give us that locker room wop 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 wop, we get grandson POV and a boogeyman. Why not, dude? It's a total freak show anyway.
And it's time for the Battle of the Billionaires. In Vince's corner, Umaga, the bloodline is so strong for the biz. And then in Trump's corner, it's ECW champion Bobby Lashley. And it should be of note here that Umaga is the Intercontinental Champion as well. We have Vince's arch nemesis, Stone Cold Steve Austin, as a special guest referee. It couldn't get any better literally the stars were aligning in this video package. So for the pre-match video, we have Donald Trump, Vince McMahon, hair versus hair. Which billionaire will leave totally bald tonight?
Dude, it's so good. And it goes on ego versus ego, hair versus hair. It's all going down at WrestleMania 23. Umaga versus Lashley comes on with the graphic and everything. We cut to celebrities that are giving their match picks and favorites for the show. And right away, 20-year later, big time babyface John Elway wants Trump's head shaved. And literally every single other person that they show is Team Donald. And dude, they absolutely have got to want that record expunged. If it wasn't WrestleMania 23, they'd know that it was out there. Yeah. But because this match isn't even billed on the summary of the show on Peacock, it has to just be totally memory hold for them.
Yes.
Trump makes it rain money during the show. And so is he the Trump train maker? Is that the way that they do that?
It's such a good segment when he's just handing out money.
And the people holding up their back. It's always like one side too, which I hope that it is legit all fake. And they're just holding up the one side that looks printed really well.
Well, the other side's just plain white. Like it's literally just card stock.
Yes, it's the Spirit Halloween money. You know what I'm saying? Like that you get in the pimp section or whatever that's over there. So, like John said, man, Trump's man is the ECW champ Bobby Lashley. He also debuted in AEW last week, and he looks not a day older. Ooh. Also of note, we just had WrestleMania 40, and this is WrestleMania 23. Like, it is incredible, man. Yes. So Austin can guarantee that there will be a bald-headed billionaire And man, they cut to the last segment before we get started where Trump's throwing Vince over a table and then wafting on him with appears to be very tiny hands. And I just thought that was hilarious, man.
Lillian Garcia tells us that it's time for the Battle of the Billionaires, and the barbershop chair has its own entrance. I popped to the moon at this remote control barbershop set just going down the ramp because Vince had to be backstage like, goddamn, pal, look at me drive this thing down to the ring.
And I heard the music and I thought that like a barber was going to strut out. And no, it was just the animatronic chair. That was pretty awesome, man.
The only thing that this spot was missing was Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
That would have been excellent. That actually would have been excellent. And that Leslie wasn't busy on this day. I don't know why we didn't get him. Maybe the ask was too high, or Hulk and Vince were on bad terms at this time. I don't know. But we have Vince's music hit. Vince walks out. He opens his arms. He struts down. The Miss Americas are in the front booing. And this has got to be a poorly mic'd crowd because this reaction sounds like Peter Avalon just walked out to the ring, man. Like it is pin drop. It is wild. So then Umaga's music hits and he's being brought out by what I think is Baby Bash. She moves her body like a cyclone. You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like I literally, like Umaga comes out and I'm waiting for this homeboy to be next to me. And look at the hair with the bag of that rubber. Who is this man?
It's Armando Estrada, I think, isn't it?
Well, I thought it was Baby Bash. This was a new face for me, brother.
And it's very fitting that the Ulafala is around Umaga's neck. What some foreshadowing that is for later on.
Mm-hmm.
Umaga just stares at the can of Gillette shaving cream like it's the world title belt on display, and he makes his way to the ring.
It did. It was just like those little belt displays that they have out, man, whatever. They're like, oh, here we go. I mean, he looked at that thing like it was just the grandest prize. And then Trump's money song hits. Money starts falling from the ceiling. Trump comes out in a full suit with an overcoat on. And it's like, brother, it ain't outdoors in Philadelphia, man. You're at Ford Field. Like, what is happening here? Like, he had to be so hot. And he starts pantomiming a shaving whenever he's by the chair. He walks into the ring. He just pumps his fists a few times. And man, I can tell you, he is way more charismatic now. Yeah. Like, he looked out of place in front of a huge, huge crowd. Yeah. And incredible that couldn't be further from the truth here in 2024. But Lashley comes out and dude, he just looks like $1 billion.
And he does like the Lesnar jump to the apron and the pyro hits. Lashley is up there in the Brock Lesnar pantheon of unique human beings. Like, what a specimen.
Yeah, he is. He's a total freak, man.
Yes. And Trump applauds, daps up Bobby, and it's time to party.
And what's incredible is that there was a point in Baby Mongoose' youth where she loved her some Bobby Lashley. Mm-hmm. There's a Bobby Lashley Braun Strowman match somewhere on YouTube that I probably watched 36 times when she was a babe. And I think it was like an ambulance match or something from that like Great Balls of Fire era. You know what I'm talking about? So Austin comes out then, and he is by far the most over man in the entire ring. But Trump just won't get out of the ring, man. He's just lapping it all up, living it all up. Austin finally gives him the boot. Vince is selling his nervousness out on the outside. Yep. Trump goes to the outside. He finally takes his overcoat off, and then Umaga snarls at Vince and Baby Bash. It's go time.
And they panned to these two fans that were given the double birds with Austin, and they looked like they were being held against their will. They looked like they had been fed something and they were standing there. And if they moved an inch, Kevin Dunn was going to cut their heads off. Like, it was so bad.
Hey, man, you got to get the crowd having the time of their lives.
I guess.
Greatest place in the world, greatest spectacle in all of sports. So we start off with Lashley just unloading on Umaga. Austin rips Bobby off of him, and Umaga goes to get some heat. He eats a post and then a shoulder block. We get a quick 2 count. Armando puts Umaga's foot on the rope. Lashley pulls this fella in, And then he just gives this huge power slam and tosses him out.
Armando's bump, he literally came in from the heavens onto the mat. My word.
Yeah, that was some serious heat there. And Umaga that goes a million miles an hour then straight at Lashley, misses, goes right over the top and onto the floor. And man, that had to suck.
His floor bump, dude. He needs an Energy 2.0 to fix that. My God. Umaga pops Lashley to the outside. He comes back in, goes to get some heat, and Lashley cuts him off. And Lashley then goes for the spear, and he bumps straight to the outside himself.
That one had to suck. Like we had 3 mega bumps right away from 3 different people. So Umaga throws in Lashley, goes off the ropes, delivers a splash. Lashley kicks out at 2. Umaga's choking Bobby in the ropes, and then Austin reminds him that the long arm of the law only has 5 fingers.
And Austin providing law and order to both Lashley and Umaga was a really nice touch. I felt like it just it just made so much sense for the character, and it just legitimized the match because they weren't making him look like a geek.
Yeah, this is very true, and that happens way too often. That's a solid point. Mm-hmm. So Umaga goes right back in for the choke. Austin counts to 5. Rather than DQ him, he grabs Umaga by the braids. Umaga isn't happy, and Trump's just screaming for Bobby to shake it off. Umaga then continues with the heat. Now we got Vince smiling, and he's telling Trump from across the ring, the shaving is coming.
And I wanted to bring up a point here. You're going to see it on the screen here for all the listeners, but is there a smear or something on the hard cam? Because it looked like the ring was glowing, but whenever they went to the 2 shots, on the floor, there wasn't any of that. It felt like they had a halo around the ring. Like it was just holier than thou.
Depending on who you talk to, people might say that it was because the Donald was at ringside.
That's actually true.
But Vince is now barking orders as Umaga delivers 2 Samoan drops from the middle rope. Vince is really feeling himself now. Lashley tries to fire up, but he eats a Samoan drop in the middle. Umaga gets a couple of kicks in. Lashley gets up, goes for a slam. Umaga squashes him down with the old King Kong Bundy spot, and Lashley kicks out of that at 2.
And then Vince hops up on the apron to yell at Steve, and this was so great. Lashley then hits him, he bumps off, and the spot was even better.
So Vince takes that. He's selling his back on the outside. Umaga's still in control as Trump's yelling words of encouragement at him.
Him just on the outside, just continuously and awkwardly clapping and just shake it off, Bobby. Just shake it off. You're right about the charisma thing because he just didn't have it here.
Oh, dude, I wish that I could see him in this spot now because he had the ego to want to eat up the camera time, but he didn't have the aura to control the camera time. Do you know what I'm saying? And here it was like he was stuck on shake it off, shake it off. Yes. Felt like a Taylor video right now.
Come on, Bobby, shake it off, Bobby.
So Umaga climbs up to the top now. Lashley gives Umaga the flare slam off the top rope. He hits a big clothesline, and now we got to double down.
And then Austin starts counting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And instead of counting to 10, he just starts screaming at both men to get up. And I thought this was a great spot. And then, of course,
here comes the money.
Shane McMahon comes in for the rescue, and the only thing I could think about is where's Pete Gas? I didn't even care about Shane. I wanted to know where Pete Gas was.
Yeah, I popped whenever he just quit counting and then just started barking at both people.
Yes.
I was just like, man, this is supposed to be these 2 killer champions, and you just have Austin undressing him for not being able to stand. So Shane runs down. He picks up his old man. Both men in the ring are now back up. They're trading blows. Umaga's staying in control, though, and he's just wailing away on Lashley. Austin counts to 5 again. Umaga doesn't obey, and then Austin just starts gouging Umaga's eyes out, which was an incredible little spot here. Shane then tries to run in. He gets caught in the ropes. Austin just stares at him for a second and then just tosses him right out.
And Austin turns around and Umaga hits Austin with a Samoan spike. And Shane then just unloaded on Lashley with what have had to have been live rounds. He's just potatoing him right there in front of everybody. So Lashley then grabs Shane, gets a waist lock, and then Umaga cuts him off.
Umaga gives a hip attack to Lashley. They then grab a trash can, and Shane, in a blazer and bootcut jeans, is going up to the top rope.
Shane is in, I don't want to say it's a legendary fit, but it's a fit because are those Bape Air Force Ones?
I couldn't tell I didn't really stop and rewind to try to see what he had. From first glance, it looked like a pair of Vans, which very well could have been the Bapes does because that little, squiggly gimmick could look like the star, but I wasn't sure.
I just remember seeing the check mark. Like I saw the Nike check and then I was like, I don't even know what Air Forces they were, but he is not only in those Air Forces, but he is in jeans, a dress shirt, and a velvet sport coat. Why are we wearing so much overcoatage here? We're in a dome.
Layer of style, man.
It must be, but of course, Shane has to get his shit in. He hits the coast to coast on Bobby, and Bobby has literally had no offense for what it's felt like 10 to 15 minutes of this match so far.
Yeah, and after he hits the big spot, Shane gets up, he takes the jacket off, he unbuttons his shirt, and he shows everybody he has referee stripes on underneath.
It was 1999 again.
It really was. Yeah, it really was. I didn't realize we had Austin as the enforcer here. Right. And then when Shane came down, I was like, wait, what year is this?
Yes, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, literally, my mind just started firing off. And I was like, we're back in 1999 again.
Shane pulls Lashley into the middle. Umaga goes up to the top and he gives the big Uso splash.
And Shane counts to 2, but Austin grabs the leg and pulls him to the outside and sends Shane into the ring steps. They're literally doing spot for spot that they've literally done in 1999. They've already done this.
Yeah, and Shane's head, though, when his head hit the steps here, it gave me a headache, man. That was violent.
It was. And Austin gets back into the ring. Umaga then cuts him off with another Simone spike.
And they cut to Trump, and he just goes, "What is going on over here?"
And Vince is talking smack to Austin, and then Trump runs around the ringside area and does a half clothesline, half Fez press to McMahon. It was incredible.
It really was. And I mean, it only would have been better if he literally went full lariat.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if with the blazer and everything, if he was too constricted. But the fact that he went short arm and then just went into the mount, gets in a couple of shots, and then he bailed right out of there, man. It was incredible.
So back in the ring, Umaga goes for another Samoan spike on Austin. Austin ducks and he hits the stunner. Lashley then spears Umaga and wins. And it was such a good moment, but it was literally ruined because of how great this part was. As Austin is counting 1, he comes down for 2 and the ring bell just starts dinging. They didn't even get to the count of 3. They were already calling the match.
This was probably done by the same guy that lifted that briefcase in that King of the Ring in 99 or whatever that was.
Yeah. It must have been the ministry. The brothers were getting some heat back then.
Dude, if this would have led to another Boss Man comeback, I would have never started watching again. If I would have heard that he came back again, I'd have been out forever. So Vince is beside himself, and he is a terrible man. But yeah. God, he's an amazing performer.
An awful person, but he is a great performer. He sold this so well. The realization he was having that he was going to get his head shaved was so good. It was just so good.
Yep. And he and Austin lock eyes. Austin goes outside, throws Vince into the ring. McMahon's now down on his knees. Shane then comes in. He hits Austin from behind. Austin throws Shane into the ropes, hits a proper Fez press, and then he's playing the hits, man, with the double birds and this, gives Shane the stunner.
And now we have Austin, Lashley, and Trump celebrating as the glass shatters, and Vince is hiding behind the ring steps as he's trying to sneak away. It was so good.
Yep, this was excellent, man. And he thinks he pulled a fast one.
Right.
And so he's halfway down the ramp. and Lashley runs 4-4 speed up the ramp. It was incredible. And he grabs Vince like a toddler over one shoulder, just carries him back into the ring.
It felt like Lashley got there in 4 strides.
It was insane. Yes. It was like whenever they would show LeBron in like 2012 would go coast to coast in 2 dribbles or 3 dribbles or whatever. That was literally what that was like. It was incredible athleticism. So the chair's there. Lashley did his duty, and now we have Vince, Austin, and Trump. And Vince is standing there mortified. He reaches his hand behind his head because he could feel a man breathe on him, and he just starts feeling Austin's bald head, and that was awesome.
He rubbed his head like he was a genie, and he was going to get 3 wishes. It was incredible. That is... I've never seen that moment before, and that's one of my most favorite visuals I think I've ever seen in wrestling.
It was absolutely like Wile E. Coyote, Looney Tunes style thing. Do you know what I'm saying? Where like the heel in a cartoon is caught.
Yes.
And it was great, man. It was excellent. So Vince then keeps his, which was at that time, decade-long-ish streak of not being able to sell a stunner alive, because he takes another awful one here. The baby faces then throw Vince into the barber chair. They hold him down. Trump's showing the crowd the clippers, and now he's saying, "Come on, Bobby, let's go," as Donald and Bobby are simultaneously beginning to shave Vince's head while Austin is holding Vince's neck in place. Vince the whole time is screaming, "Don't do this to me. Stop it. Stop it. Don't."
And Trump looks way too comfortable, and he looked way too happy to be doing this to Vince. Like, and the other thing that like really bothered me about this too is like they couldn't have gotten battery powered razors back in the day. Like it literally was not that long ago, and the cords on the clippers were just short. Like you could see Trump just like yanking on that clipper to try to get it because he didn't have long enough cords.
Yeah, man, you're right. I don't know. You'd have thought that they would have thought that one out. But the worst thing with the shaving was Trump and Bobby put like a banana split's worth of shaving cream on his head, just stacked up. And they start to go to town with razors here. And this man, I mean, it was bad enough with them just grinding that electric razor, but now his head needs to be on absolute fire. I could not imagine the burn that he was taking on here. So Austin's sipping a beer while this is all going on, and Vince is just completely defeated. Bobby Lashley gets the mirror. They go for the big Joker reveal spot from Batman 1989. Bobby gives the mirror to look. Vince tries so hard to do the backwards chair cell, but he can't do it. He's just caught in suspended animation. So they finally push the chair over. Vince rolls out, and he walks like half, 3/4 shaven with his tail tucked back to the locker room.
And the baby faces are now all together in the ring celebrating with a beer. Trump has a little bit of shaving cream on his face, and he obviously doesn't know that it's there. And
I don't know how he wasn't just smelling it. Like it was like just there. It was so close, man. Whatever.
But then out of nowhere, Austin hits a stunner on Donald.
And dude, he took this almost as bad as Vince did. And Austin heads to the back. And then the thing that I had the biggest problem with was that Trump was down for like 8 seconds. And then got up and then walked out. It's like, dude, you got to sell this better.
Yeah, for real. You're right. He literally just sat up, and then he was like, "All right, I've done my obligation."
Yeah, zombie sit, get me out of here, man. Incredible.
Absolutely not. What are you giving this match?
I'm giving all of it. Segment, match, everything that I saw. This is a solid 1 thumb up for me. There was good. There was nothing great. There was zany, but none of the zany I thought was like, I thought all the campiness or things that they had laid out actually worked. I also don't think it was one of the greatest segments of all time. So a solid thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a solid 1 1/4 thumb up.
There you go. One of these jobs.
Yeah, I thought that it was it had good, the video package was really good. I didn't really care about the match as just the interference was really good. And there was a lot of callbacks to stuff that they had already done like in the past that like, if you didn't know that those things happened, you wouldn't think it would be as good as what it was. And they were really trying to play the hits on the older crowd at that point. And I thought that was really good. And I also liked just that visual of Vince just sticking his hand back and rubbing Steve's head was just so good.
Yeah, and if you think about it, their top guys at the time, this was also the largest grossing pay-per-view buys WrestleMania until the Rock and Cena. Like this,
Right.
everybody bought this show to see this. And it's really smart because they were able to use two solid mid-level guys,
Mhm.
and they didn't need to use your Cena's, Batistas, any of those. So those guys got to have their standalone moment, not get caught up in all the zaniness. And I didn't think that Lashley or Umaga looked like geeks at any point in time either. I mean, you'd noted that Bobby sold for forever, but at the same time, we're supposed to believe that Vince is going to get out of this unscathed. And at the end, we all wanted to see him get his comeuppance. You know what I'm saying? So I thought it worked well.
Yeah, and the fact that it was sandwiched in between their two big championship matches with Taker and Batista, and then you followed this up with the Cena match. Like I thought this was, I mean, it was Cena's big crowning moment. So it was a really good, really good WrestleMania, I thought. New to the channel, make sure you subscribe. It is the best way to support the channel, and the more subscribers you get, the more we can give back to you, the listeners. So be sure to subscribe and like the video. We will be coming back to you next week with another great episode. We are on the road to Survivor Series War Games, so we got a lot of War Game stuff coming up here in the future. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. And I'm Johnny Bake Show.
I'm Teddy Mongoose.
And we just called it in the ring.